Okay.
So I think we should start. So welcome everybody who are here for our webinar. We are here to talk about lessons from lockdown, the new paradigm in design practice moving forward, what we can actually do to make things better, and create this as more of a positive impact on people, design fraternity, and people as whole, how they can move forward as businesses. So one, I would like everybody to kind of self-introduce so we can have like a little, interaction with the audience from each one of you. So let's start with probably Kanika, and moving forward, we can go ahead and everybody just, probably a quick one, two line.
Sure. Okay. So hi everybody. Been in the business now for 21 years. More importantly, I think every new challenge in design has been very interesting, from installation to product design to interiors to set design, which is my newfound love. It's exciting, and I think, and also more importantly, I've done the 3 world records, 2 with the Prime Minister and 1 with the Union Textile Minister. That was great learning. At 20 years, I mean, after 20 years, you really think we have not learned anything in life. We really need to keep learning. So that's a great lesson I've been also inculcating. With me, I've also been teaching, I've been writing. So yeah, that's a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think everybody now knows where everybody is coming from and they have like a brief understanding. Next, let's move to Anjali. Let's hear a little from you.
Hi everyone, I'm Anjali Rawat. My practice is very small. We operate from Milind. I have around 10 people with me. We are into apartments, office spaces, and building facades. Also, like we are doing a couple of commercial projects. Like basically, work is, you can see, it's very minimal. We kind of focus more on clean lines and clutter-free spaces. That is how I would define my design language. And apart from that, I love to travel. I read a lot. I watch a lot of theater and movies, and it kind of reflects in our design ideology and vision.
Great. Next, Milind sir.
Okay, so I'm a practicing architect and interior designer, almost 32 years in this field now.
Wow.
And we tried our hands at almost all the verticals. And one thing what we try to do at MPA is we try to reinvent ourselves all the time. We come from an era when we could do very good classical themes, and then we graduated to modern clean-cut lines. Now we are getting into fusion, neoclassical. So we keep experimenting and changing our styles all the time. One of the main USPs I could think about my practice in so many years, we have almost covered 33 cities in India over a period of time. Even we have done project in the places like Lakshadweep also. And like Anjali said, I love traveling, so this has helped me a lot in covering so many destinations. Even done 3 out of India projects also. So that's, I think, in a nutshell about my firm.
Great to know. I think everybody is quite excited to hear more from you and your experiences. Next, we have our very own Manish Dikshit. Let's hear from you.
Thanks for calling it very well. Yeah. So I have my architectural practice for the last 15 years based out of Bombay. Have completed almost 450 odd projects around the world, right from USA to the East Coast and West Coast to Australia. We have covered almost every continent in between, ranging from architectural to interior designing. Our main forte is in interior designing, where we call ourselves, we give luxury designs at economical pricing. So in India, we are also a design and build firm. So that's how we are, with the expertise of 15 years and with our team, we are able to achieve this target.
Great. So now I guess everybody knows about where our panelists are like coming along from to discuss various streams from their own experiences on how they can, help us, achieve a better world through pandemic. So let's just begin what we are here to talk about. So I mean, coming to the cause for many in like the design community, like the rapid spread of, COVID-19 has caused them to kind of reevaluate their work styles, and what it really means to kind of design for a world, I mean, which is going to completely change for a lot of people. So in terms of what you think, how will architecture will change as a whole. So what is your take on it? What do you see is going to be ever evolving or maybe completely change in architecture, beginning from, let's say, Milind sir? What do you have to say on this?
Yeah, so I think one very single most important lesson what we have learned is from social distancing. So I think the scales at which what we have designed so far are going to change in every aspect, be it town planning, be it your apartments, be it your community spread, or it could be even the distance, silly things like distance we sit from each other, the way we place our urinals in the toilet. So, these things are going to be relooked all over again. And the very concept of urban architecture, where we have bottlenecks like stairways, lifts, passages. So we may have to change the scale of these elements also, because now we are no longer going to be comfortable being a typical Indian who don't mind getting in a crowded place and touching each other and standing for 1.5 in a local train, sticking to each other. All these norms are going to change, and our psychic is going to change. So I think at every level of design and architecture, we are going to see reinvention of spaces. And I think enough has been talked about specific this thing, what is the applications of this, but this is one single element that is going to change the entire design scenario, I think. The scaling up and the distancing of people.
Right. I mean, when it comes to maybe like, talking about the number of people that we have in our country and, in our city, I don't know how much will it be, easier for people to kind of accommodate it. So when I talk about population, I mean, I want to kind of hear from Kanika that, in terms of such masses that we have, so tapping public spaces like spaces when we are designing, let's say, a set, or maybe places which has probably more over 50 to 100 people, or maybe thousands of them. What kind of measures is in terms of design that we can take?
I mean, let's look at it. We're right now with the COVID-19. I think we're in this mode reflection. Am I audible?
Yeah,
you are.
Yeah.
So we're in this mode reflection, and we're moving towards this mode transformation. So design transformation of these spaces are going to be influenced, I think, by 5 to 6 things. And this is what you could call like 6 influencers. So when you're taking the first important lesson from COVID-19, that's nature. So nature is going to be our first picture frame. I mean, instead of using paintings and artworks in our sites and projects, we are now going to use the nature as a picture frame, in all our projects. So that I see green is going to be big in spaces that we design, which is going to make a big comeback out of necessity, what we've learned. Second very important thing is design is now going to have to be sensible and sensitive, for which I mean you need to conserve and preserve. So conserve and preserve not only ourselves, our surroundings, okay, that all is very important in today's scenario. I mean, post-pandemic also we'll see that. Besides that, what is going to be the design style? Design style surely has to be something which is pragmatic, which is simplistic, which is practical. I mean, when you're talking of surfaces, probably look at less fuss-free surfaces, less of textures, less of labor-intensive surfaces. Like I remember we had done for this hospitality project, we had done a ceiling, okay, and the ceiling has almost an art installation with lots of numerous overhangs. Now, today, if I look at it, I say, gosh, what a housekeeping nightmare for my client. So, really we need to get out of this because we're in the shoes today. I realize, gosh, yeah, the poor guy, I mean, how much of housekeeping he must be investing in the maintenance and upkeep, so something like that. Then, moreover, the spaces need to be fluid. So, you can't say, see, now coming back, articulation of spaces is going to be very different. You can't have only fluid spaces and you can't have only cellular spaces. It has to be a mix. It has to be some kind of a meeting point between both, where you have screening of spaces plus you have fluid spaces.
Right.
That's again very important thing. And what we are learning now is also when we're looking at spaces and design, when we're talking of design, essentially we need to go local, look at the local stuff that we have. I mean, why are we going to Vietnam? I mean, this is like besides the point, but I'm just taking a detour here, which is why are we going to Vietnam? Why are we going to Malaysia, Bali, Italy? Why can't we look? Why can't we look homewards? Let's look at all our states. We're all blessed with so much of cultural stuff. All that is issue is we just need to fine tune it and make it in context. It is definitely out of context right now. So design, sorry. So design needs to be made in context. So whether it's planning of spaces, planning of the mass spaces, or interior spaces, everything needs to be looked at. And also we're all at the mercy of policy makers, really. I mean, if you see today, policies are one thing and something else is happening. Like supposing you're talking of spaces, uh, wheelchair access. I mean, simple thing like that. How many spaces today? I think a year back we had gone for Wade Asia. The damn hotel didn't have a wheelchair access. Forget the ramp. I think it had a piddly ramp at all, whatever, small piddly ramp. But the toilet couldn't have taken a wheelchair person there. I mean, so even 5 stars, 7 stars, ignore that. But obviously, there's a space crunch. There are issues with planning, strategists, and implementation, and builders, and everybody. So it's like I think it's a huge lot of things which go into this that you're asking. But I think Milind and Manish should be better people to poise the answer here.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand. When it comes to these things, that we should now go local, and in terms of even factories. If you talk about a lot of factories outside India or in India, for such materials are kind of closing down because in terms of they require labor-intensive work. So I want to kind of understand in terms of that relationship also, because in terms of choice for us as designers will also be changing. Right now, if you think on it, if a client who wants to kind of buy something from Milan, tells us and we kind of arrange for it and go ahead with it. But what about things later? When because it's effectively going to reduce transportation, it's going to affect the labor intensive work, because they're not going to come back in a day from their probably their villages or from wherever that people have belonged to, gone back. So I want to kind of hear from Manish as well on this. I mean, our choices in terms of consumer relationships going to change for people, and designs are going to be affected due to that, as in terms of a design implementation or a design choice.
Okay, so I think the important point here is the way people are reacting to this pandemic. I think it is a quite similar reaction what people had a few months ago or years ago, when you had all these crazy fires happening in commercial establishments in Delhi as well as in Bombay. So it's an immediate reaction that, okay, tomorrow I need to fireproof my office or my house or whatever. And it generally fades away. Unfortunately, this particular situation is kind of a little more crazier because nobody knows how it's going to be cured. So that fear might probably change in the way people are going to start thinking. In one terms of, okay, should I get products from outside India for a reason where my client needs it, or is it something, it's a need of an hour? So if there is no option, yes, of course, we need to go to the other countries to source some of the material that we require for our interiors. But otherwise, I think economically, the way it is going to happen is there is going to be a situation where everyone around us are going to start believing and ensuring that our local economy, our city, our country is going to improve further. Because if our social surrounding is not going to improve along the way we are going to improve in future, it's not going to help anyone in the society. So in that terms, yes, a local production is needed. How are we going to manage it is basically getting it factory fitted. You have already a lot of options happening in India where right from the interior to most of the architectural products are also being made in India. Of course, it's not price effective. Definitely not. But then when you try to see China as an option today, a lot of us will probably realize China is not being as cheap as we all thought it would, because with their local labor cost, which is also increasing, their pricing are, I would say, just 30% to 50% cheaper than what a European company would be. So looking at that scenario, I think India has got an opportunity to pick it up. And we as a responsible professional in this field should encourage and ensure that as much as possible, we promote and use the local product. Yes, of course, we are going to have a problem with the finishing, quality, blah, blah, blah. But I think there is always a room for improvement here. So we should let people have that opportunity and that chance to take it forward.
Right, right. Anjali, what's your take on it when it comes to architecture and design when it comes to, let's say, residential spaces? Because that's the core space where people are kind of instilling in their time and investing their time right now. So when it comes to designing for future in terms of a design practice, what are the kind of steps that people can take? Kind of for designing a residential space. And I mean, that I would like to hear from everybody as well, because that is something where everybody is dealing with a different type of residential space, and the type of designing is also very, very different from each other. So I kind of want to know, so that that kind of aids our viewers also to kind of use their space better, and right now, and in terms of designing, in terms of a design practice also for later. So let's actually start with Anjali so she can give an insight on residential spaces.
I think right now people need homes which can effectively provide social isolation, where they can feel safe, and there would be more focus on hygiene, more focus on having a dedicated workspace or a dedicated study space, because I think in future we'll be working from home a little more than now. And also I think there will be like apartment with balcony or terrace will be more in demand. I think people will go for growing vegetables and fruits in their own gardens. So like there will be more focus on having a balcony or a terrace, a little bit of sky or earth for everyone. And I guess separate space for home workouts and yoga, and because more and more people are becoming health conscious, which is a nice thing. So general requirement for a dwelling or a house is definitely going to change post COVID, I think.
And what do others have to add into this? That like
So I would just like to recap on what Kanika and Manish said, because I just heard one new terminology. It says regionalism is the new globalization. So I was very excited to hear about this, because it translates into a lot of meanings, at the end of the day. So we have to now look beyond China, because I think world over people have realized one big lesson is they cannot depend on China anymore. And it's not only in our field, it's all over the place. So gradually this shift is going to take place. And then after China, the whole world is asking, after China, who else? Who else can replace a giant like China? So obviously, most of the fingers are pointing towards India. So we should not look at this at a very short-term perspective, because it's easier said than done. So whatever initial problem that we are facing, immediately like finishing or design standards and all, I think they are all going to pass off in a very short time. And we have to reinvent ourselves because the world is now expecting from us. It's not only about us. So if we are looking at furniture, for example, we are no longer looking at finishing and supplying and all these things only for Indian market. India is now poised to take on the whole world as an option to China. So we should start looking and set our bar so high, and we should look at that scale from now on. So that's where our vision about the imported furniture for Indian market, or whether it should stop at only that, or we should actually think about making furniture for world market now. So that's the call we need to take now. So actually, I wanted to share on that part. So sorry, I went back in that question again.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think we have started on the Make in India program quite long back before the pandemic.
But we have to keep our bars not only to India. We have to look at the world as our market now. We no longer. So just about scaling up and getting enough material and finishing to just beat China at our local market is not enough. We have to beat China at the international level now. That should be our target. And coming to what you are sharing with Anjali, I had two aspects to this. We are looking at a place as an ideal Indian family, who's well off and having an apartment of 4 BHK, 5 BHK. But for our country, that itself may not be enough because we are only catering to that segment. But so obviously, we have to have separate spaces for yoga, separate home office, separate maybe isolation room where you want to keep somebody in emergency. Some of your office staff can just come home and stay over in the night. So there are lots and lots of things. A lot of architects can dwell and we can come up with solutions. But is another segment of 1 BHK house, or where people can actually just sleep in the living room and cook in the kitchen. Like, what about those people? Or there are we used to have one new terminology called nano houses. Very small houses. Suddenly your real development people shifted their entire focus on nano housing. So that is where the real estate could get sold very fast.
That's the studio apartment. Or
studio apartments. Yeah, that's the more lavish word of using it. So these two segments also we have to think about, because that's where the new India, the millennials and the Z generation, what we call them now, they are going to first shift into their smaller pads and then move into these houses. So one very simple formula that we need to focus upon is how to design this kind of small apartment. So these multi-functional furnitures and how we divide the space in that much small space and use it in a different ways. A multifunction like a table and bed. We all know all those ideas are there. So that also gets translated to a technology which cannot sometimes be manufactured on the site. So we have to again look at mass production, then again building industry. So it's a vicious cycle. So we have to think out of the box and think about how our houses are going to be planned, what kind of cross section this generation is going to come from, who's going to move from which house to which house. We have a situation where we have a lot of elderly people whose children have left them and gone to USA and they are sitting over 4 BHK house which they can't maintain. And imagine in a pandemic situation how they are going to even do a routine maintenance. So they are very complex situations which architects need to analyze at a different socio-economic level and age level. And even if you are stuck in a situation like this of working from home, for example, how do you divide your time with your family? Because there has to be a cutoff time for office work and take over your family time. So all these challenges are all going to come to us. It's not something we can finish in a small discussion like this. The more we think about it, the more complex it gets to understand.
Yeah, I mean, social behavior is very important when it comes to design, especially like a residential space. So yes, Kanika, what do you have to add?
So I'd love to add to this, which is what we need now is flexi spaces. That's from whatever you can summarize what they've said. So flexi spaces is important with, of course, multifunctional furniture. What we actually need is recharge rooms. In the home, you really realize now with all this chaos, and this crisis, we're all caged in. We all feel that we are confined to the homes. So the home should be such, especially home design, if it all depends on the square foot you have. For the smaller square foot, we have to take lessons from homes in Hong Kong and Tokyo, how do they manage with multi-flexi spaces, overlapping spaces. But here, what in India, I think very important need of the hour is recharge rooms. We need to recharge physically and mentally. Right now, ever since COVID-19 has started, see the number of mental cases that are happening. People have gone berserk. Men are troubling the wives, and I don't know what else. You know,
Another way around also.
yes.
Ah.
Also, the younger guys who are suffering from bipolarism and depression, and also claustrophobia. You know, some people have claustrophobia. So we have to be sensitive to all this. We need a recharge room. We need a meditation zone. We need a no quiet space. I mean, we need to have a no noise zone in our homes. Besides that, I don't know what happened to the policy maker. Maybe Milind and Manish can answer this. Where are our beloved balconies gone? Yeah, balconies have gone. Our gardens have gone. Everything is gone now. I mean, it should be mandatory that of course, the builders don't want to pay for that balcony area any longer. But every home should have mandatory one balcony. We're looking at Facebook posts, okay? In every country abroad, one neighbor is talking to the other neighbor, balcony mein hi, hello. They're all standing in the balcony greeting each other. Yeah? We're feeling at such a loss. I mean, not only in the slum, of course, we're not talking in the slum schemes, but there we put them in cubby holes. Imagine their plight. Okay, at least they have a toilet, so there is less of infection as compared to the slum guys. The rehabilitated guys who've got a building is much better. But where are our gardens? You need nature's influence in your home. That's important. And also, the need of the hour is sustainable stuff. We need to recycle, rethink, reinvent, refit materials and things. Like, I think abroad, one guy has made furniture out of coffee waste. Can you believe it? Coffee shell waste, he's made furniture. Yet another guy has made furniture from tomato peels. Tomato ke छिलके से furniture बनाया है. Amazing, yeah. So same way, we all, you, I, all of us in India wear denims, jeans. What are we doing to our jeans after we finish using it? Look at the landfills, amazing landfills. So why can't we design denim carpet tiles, denim, we are using this stupid gypsum on the ceiling. Why can't we have something which is eco-friendly, have denim acoustic ceiling or a false ceiling system? I mean, obviously mixed with another material. Also, wall panels. There's so much. So I'm just taking an example of denim because I did a lot of R&D in recently. But
Yeah.
but so much we can do. I mean, of course, there is cost, there is energy, but so much. But a home, in a nutshell, should be such a wellness. It should be a wellness area. That's the very important mantra. Wellness area where anybody can unwind and you still have seclusion and isolation. And we all love the green. So the nature has to be there in some way, some reference.
Right. Right. So, I mean, Manish, if you have anything to add when it comes to, I mean, people, what they can do right now in terms of their residential spaces. I mean, I can see you making most of nature at your space.
Yes.
So, I mean, what more can, people also do? I mean, especially people who are, kind of confined in a 1 BHK or, who do not have balcony, who cannot go to a garden. What more they can do indoors to kind of get a little bit of fresh air or can do something about it?
See, first is I'd like to explain in macro level. So when it comes to our cities, our urban centers across India, one issue that I think we all are facing is the way government needs to decongest the cities. That should happen at a faster pace. One most important thing. Second is existing urban centers like Bombay today, where a few years ago when the government decided the south of Bombay is no longer going to be the commercial hub, they're going to move it away from that. You have BKC, you have Andheri, and you have other zones where they try to decongest that. But yes, of course, the population is going to be ever building. you have a lot of satellite cities that can be developed in India, where you start letting go of the population count from here, and that is going to also help in growing these smaller towns. So there is going to be a good gradual movement rather than isolating everything and making it into a Hong Kong or a Tokyo. That is one. Second is when it comes to an existing infrastructure like Bombay, where we cannot let go of people, so many people working here. One advantage is also we cannot definitely have balconies in every house, of course, because I don't want to start jumping into my neighbor's house through my balcony. We need to have that social distance. How much ever we like our own privacy and how much ever I like to be around in crowds in having born in Bombay, I still want that a bit of privacy. So, a need of an hour is the urban planners, town planners, and architects, of course. We are supposed to get more influence with nature, trying to get nature inside, not chopping off every land that you have and trying to fill it with concrete blocks, rather have more of green spaces, because I'm shocked and amazed to see the kind of birds I see every morning here. This is my place where I start working, and I ensure that I wrap up my work before the peak afternoon sun. So early morning, you start off and you see the kind of birds I could never imagine I could see it in a place like Bombay. It looks like one of those bird parks around the world. But it's really interesting, and I did not know Bombay could also have that. And I think one of the reason is they are probably already here, but with our daily noise, pollution, and everything, we could probably not realize what is happening. And I could sit here for an hour or two, probably doing nothing at all, not even checking my phone, and I still enjoy that. So you imagine if a place like Bombay, we can have that. Imagine the rest of India. I think we have heaven in India as well, but we are not utilizing it. And design community in terms of architects and interior designer both should be equally responsible. I agree with Kanika. You need to think about how you recycle a lot of material like your denim. That is one bits and pieces, whatever you are doing, you can start looking at options. I saw my wife the other day. She was trying to get the peel of the orange and trying to as a face mask. Seriously, I mean, nobody during this time would ever want to go to a pharmacy or a beauty shop and try to bring all those things in your house. So, why not do all these? So, these are the ways we are going to reduce the dumping that is going to be happening around in our urban center. I mean, this discussion can go for hours together in terms of not only design, architecture, but also beyond that.
Himani, your audio is off.
Your audio is off, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we are talking about micro spaces like residences, but I mean, what about in terms of city levels? I mean, we already have bigger cities which are already constructed in a certain way. I mean, not talking about spaces like Chandigarh, but yes, like you said about Mumbai, we got to know about it now. But, in terms of what can people in terms of government and in terms of people can do when it comes to cities which are already there? What more can people do?
Sorry, because yes. I did answer the earlier one, because I saw some questions by a lot of people. They wanted to know about,
I want to take up the questions, spaces. But I just wondered if we can do it probably in the next,
Sure. No, it had a lot of relevance in terms of, it had a lot of relevance in terms of, we are only talking about living spaces, but what about workspaces? How are you going to have? Are you going to have agile seating systems? Are you going to have partitions in your office? How are you going to look at it? I would say get rid of your offices, sit at home and work. You are having a lot of time right now rather than traveling to work, saving fuel in your car and preserving the environment, no traffic on the road, no noise, and no congested office situation. I am by far lucky. Probably I can just call in one of my client over here for an open discussion whenever I want to. But I think this could be my future workspace. It's fun, but it might not be true for a lot of others, because
there's some issue with your network, I think, Manish
mentioned that we have we have only 5. Is it better?
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay, sorry, I am using my phone internet.
Yes.
A lot of people are having gaming session in my house, so they are eating away my bandwidth.
Okay.
So yeah, I think workspace is also something we need to understand, and I think it's good to get away from work environment, especially for us. We are one of those crazy lot of creative minds where we can sit in any zone and we can make it into our comfort area. So this could be an opportunity for all of us to rethink about, and of course we need to start rethinking about our financials in terms of office space, rentals, or whatever you're going to be doing. And you can still sit at home and try to achieve all those things that you could achieve all this while. Of course, the first 1 week of this lockdown was quite torturing, where people did not know how to start their day. But as and when you get used to doing your household work, uh, you realize how well you get that good time slot to sit and work, and you probably need only 3 hours in a day to complete whatever you needed to do that whole day.
Right. Milind sir, what do you have to say about this? I mean, how can probably future cities be planned better, and how current cities, can take a call in terms of, using what more can be done in terms of architecture and design from their end, in terms of whether it be a government model or whether it be people, how can they use their current cities better post, the pandemic ends and, they go out in open.
Yeah.
What kind of things you suggest?
So currently, we need to first focus on what we already have, because that is our immediate problem that needs to be addressed. So I was listening to some program, and a very top-notch predictions were going on, and people were saying it's going to be a mass migration after this pandemic. Like we are now seeing uh, small incidences in Delhi and Bombay, but here are these people who are no longer comfortable staying in their small ghettos of slums, and these are the people who are going to migrate for a very long time, or maybe permanently, from the red zones to green zones, because we are only looking to this problem from our perspective. But if you see the majority of people who stay in slums in places like Bombay, they may actually shift, and that itself will be one automatic phenomenon that is going to happen for decongestion, which I don't think anybody of us are going to play any role. It's going to happen by default. And if you look at it at our own micro level, not even only today, but if you when we are practicing with our contractors and in our daily practice, we have observed so many of these contractors, they have a very well set business in their hometowns. So why they come to
Yes.
Bombay is just to make this extra money
Use
actually.
the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, sorry, can you
Right.
please? Yeah.
Sorry.
So what happens here is two things. One is the contractor level already have a well set business plan at home, and they would have to choose between getting into these red zones or staying alive and nice and having a good life at a little lesser price. So these are the candidates who may not come back after the pandemic, because this is the seminar addressed to our fraternity. I just want to give you this insights. When we do projects in B cities, which is a much better platform to work, and especially I have worked in so many smaller cities, and I love the kind of atmosphere and respect and working freedom that I get in those kind of places. So here are the cities which are actually craving for skilled people from bigger cities to migrate to those cities, and these people are stars over there. Sometimes the client tells me कि ये contractor बहुत अच्छा है, इसने बम्बई में काम किया है. So that itself is a tag, and that guy makes it big, and that one city becomes the boss. यहाँ पे कोई पूछता नहीं था. So this is only happening in our field. So we have seen it ourselves closely. It didn't wait for a pandemic to happen. So coming down from here, the decongestion program, to expect anything from happening from government level is a tall order actually. But at our level, even if you see, there are very small ideas which we could use, like uh, Kanika scared about getting green things inside the house, but there is an immediate problem of how to handle these arterial routes in Mumbai. Because if after 2 months, I was telling my team today morning in the briefing, even after 2 months, assuming on a higher side the lockdown goes down, are your parents going to send you in the local train and public transport to office for 2 months after that also? And are we going to sit in the offices in a closed environment with this pandemic scare in the back of our mind. So with these kind of things, we need to look at immediate solutions. So few months back, we had a situation which was like we are going to have all the malls open in the night. So I think a time has come in not only the malls, but we have to decongest by staggering our office timings, maybe working in 3 shifts. So all these things which were never considered as possibilities may actually now start happening in certain pockets. And if it works, then people may, if the airlines people can do it round the clock, why not other offices? So these are some of the very, very staggering ideas which may not look very feasible, but they will have to be made possible. Otherwise, how do we decongest the population of a city like Bombay? Because that is the most affected, and we have to consider Bombay as a benchmark for this kind of, any Indian cities or any world cities where we can actually study how a decongestion program can happen. So some radical ideas will have to be thought about. I don't think if you relocate somebody from one place to another, people are going to happily move there. It's never going to happen. So we have to work with our existing parameters and our limitations, what we have, and work out some out of the box ideas. So that's my take on this.
I think we have like a lot of questions also coming up for you and for everyone. I think we can now start taking the questions because we have too many now. So, I mean, I'm going to start with the, one that I've received from Mr. Dhiren Gopal. We've spoken a lot about residential spaces. They're asking me about office spaces. So the question is, how will office spaces change? Will partitions come back? Will desking remain with screens and dividers? Like usual size of workstations are now 1200 by 600 or 1350 by 700 How to maintain social distancing? Because clearly this will not work when it comes to workstations. So, I mean, any of you would like to answer this?
Manish is your favorite topic, I think.
No, I think
he's itching to answer that.
No, I read that was the first question.
I think Anjali also wanted. I think I cut her short.
Yeah, sorry, Anjali. I'm so sorry. You please go ahead.
Continue, then I'll talk.
No, nothing. I did not have anything because you can go ahead, please.
I feel offices will function differently after working from home for 1 month now. We have realized that, most of the meetings are unnecessary and we can really, have virtual meetings. And I think probably we'll have virtual site visits also where, there's a contractor will, take us around with camera in his hand. And like in past 1 year, from last couple of years, we've already switched to WhatsApp. Most of our emails, most of our, work, PDFs, we have a lot of data on our phone these days, and my team is constantly sending me screenshots. So I think it is quite possible certain percentage of staff we will be working from home. That also opens certain opportunities, I guess. Like, for example, there are women who have small kids, so we can provide them flexible working hours. Like we were already, giving it to a couple of our colleagues. So likewise, I think there will be more opportunities in future and I feel people, the way Manish sir has mentioned about in shift, people will come up with more innovative ways of, dealing with the situation. So I think apart from that, even our clients would expect us to come up with, more usage of automation, smart usage of, for example, automated door without handle. So such innovations there's a lot of scope for such innovations in terms of design possibilities and way of working also.
Right.
So probably, office spaces will become smaller. We were seeing a lot of expansions. In fact, I think so it is a challenge for rental spaces, but I can see like a couple of at least freelancer and small business owners will realize that they can actually operate from home and they don't need office space at all.
Right. Another question on the similar line we just got, which is how is this going to affect the corporate office design? I mean, what all things can change in interior layouts? So if anyone would like to elaborate on this.
Sorry. I mean, if you can repeat that question because I was reading some.
So the question is basically, how is this going to affect the corporate office design? What things can change in terms of interior layouts for offices, a corporate office?
Okay, so yeah, a couple of years ago, we had a British company who wanted to set up their office in India. So they took up a 4,000 square feet office space, and they had just four huge tables in the center of the office. And then they had this enclosed room for meeting rooms for four people at a time, and the rest of the office area was just open and free. Anybody could come and go whatever time they wanted to. They had shower cubicles, they had sleeping pods, they had gym, they had, you could imagine everything that you want. They even had a bar inside their office, which was illegal. But yeah, they had that. So they said it should be completely flexible. That's how I think it should be. You wanted to discuss something in person with two or three people where you need to sketch out or do something like that. But trust me, this remote working from home right now is making us realize we really don't need an office. I think I can see myself, my company, I don't need an office anymore. I think I was just spending money on real estate property of doing up the office space just for these meetings, and where my client has to travel for an hour to come to my office just because we wanted to discuss something. I could just probably take up a meeting room in one of those co-working space if I want to cut corners, or I could just take a star hotel conference room for that 1 hour of meeting. I think it can solve my problem. And I think those days are gone where client wanted to see your office, your infrastructure to realize whether they are giving you money. I mean, if there is a value to the money that they're going to give you. I think it's time that they will also realize it does not matter as long as you have a portfolio behind your back. This might probably not work great for our freelancing or a fresher architect, but I think sooner that's going to be the norm and it's going to change. I think every one of us has started thinking differently right now after this pandemic. It's really helpful.
I'd like to
For
add,
good.
can I add?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I'd like to add to what Manish is saying, which is it's the more you see a phenomena of having office in a suitcase or a briefcase, so you take your briefcase and you can have that office anywhere. So, in a nutshell. And anyways, to add to what Anjali said also was, quite some time back, we had done a site wherein we had installed cameras. So we could see what's happening. Sometimes when you can't go on site, since it's about design and build. You can definitely do from your home or wherever, but certain things about build, that is selection, implementation on site. Now I feel that we can take this ahead. It definitely has some conviction.
Yeah.
There are lacunas, but then I think we will need to figure out how to tweak those lacunas.
I think so we will be able to find out the solutions. I think
Yeah.
the whole community will be able to.
Yeah, one more aspect I wanted to add. So I don't think it's going to be like my point of view, of course, such a drastic shift from people moving straight away with their briefcases and kind of we may end up with a hybrid model because we have learned some lessons from whatever has happened, and the structuring of office may definitely change now because we have learned a new way of working, and that will call for how you're going to stagger your staff, how you're going to rotate them throughout the week. Are you going to give them some kind of a role where somebody can work from office, somebody can work from home? So that calls for not only implementing but also setting up systems and processes for such kind of things. So I was just discussing somebody from out of our field. He told me the experience. He has some teams of staff who are well trained and they wanted to relocate, and they are actually sitting not only in a B city but a smaller town, and they are ready. They are all ready with the training which has been given to them in these offices. And in a smaller cities, they are actually ready to work for almost a fraction of the salary that they were getting in Bombay, because a city like Bombay, there are a lot of other overheads because the staff structures are very high. So supposing I'm an architect in Bombay and there's an architect in Indore, I would probably paying twice the amount of salary to my people whom they must be paying in Indore. So these kind of radical shifts are happening in the field. So it is not just about making office spaces, but also restructuring the whole basic structure and how you are going to work on it. Like there are so many software shifts that will happen. So
Yeah.
you will have to probably work on new softwares. There are, of course, the cloud solutions are there. You should also know at short notice if you need to convert your data and move anywhere at a short notice and shift your location to anywhere else. how to conserve and how to structure your data also. So you are ready at a very short notice. So these kind of radical shifts are going to happen in our office working. I even heard there are softwares which will also monitor uh, like analytics, how many hours a person has worked on from home and how many times he has moved his mouse. And these kind of analytical softwares are also available which can monitor, So these
That
kind
is
of things
also
are,
risky as long as it does not go to China, sir.
yeah, but this is the radical shift. We never thought about these things, and these
Yeah.
are big radical shift which entrepreneurs of our scale need to look into now because we never knew about these things. When we start talking to people from other fields, we get insight into what can actually happen in our field. So many things are happening. So planning is just one aspect of it. The social structuring, ecosystem change, and all these things are also going to be a big major players which will be thrust upon us, and not like we can only decide what we want. Something will be thrust upon us due to
I
situation.
found this interesting point that somebody, Vaishnavi, has made
Yes,
architect. Vaishnavi.
yes.
Not all can works can be done from home. There will be changes in standard like usable area per person. I agree, but I can also disagree with this. Look at the situation now. Does anybody stop working in whatever project that they are doing? Even I found it kind of strange. How do I discuss designs with my team? I cannot just orally explain. I need some sketches, something, blah blah blah. It's you have your cameras everywhere. Just click, send, talk, share your screen. Everything is possible. Zoom is one option. You have Google Hangouts. You have many more such options where you can sit and chat with everyone in your team. It's just the we as sorry to say this, but we as Indians, we want everything to be free of cost. Zoom chat cannot be charging us money because we are used to getting everything free. Our Netflix account comes from our friend and cousin in US, so we like that free stuff. It's we are still downloading music, but it's like that. But if you look at the way it is happening, we don't have any other option. We have to probably look at this as future, and it can probably work. This is, let us call this God's way of telling us there's a trial 2 months that you're getting.
Right. We have a question on similar lines. I mean, which says that will activity-based working work or not? What technology will be used in offices to maintain this social distancing? I mean, there's a lot of talks that I've heard, talking about touchless technology and virtual meetings. So, what do you have to say about that? And what about work from home? What is the furniture, maybe the technology needed for people to work from home? So what percentage of office work will also shift to work from home? Because a lot of people feel that, not everything can be done from home. There are going to be some things which are basically activity based work. So what do you have to say about that? And also touchless technology, that is the new word, buzzing word everywhere right now.
See, I'll give you an example. I'm sorry, am I taking away the time from somebody else?
No, that's fine. I think we'll go to everybody.
Yeah, okay. So I am having a real case that is happening with us right now in terms of from the client inquiry to giving the client a presentation. Of course, there cannot be a site work happening right now, but till the time we are going to have GFC drawings, working drawings to be released on site, we are doing everything right now remotely. Even the first client inquiry call happened after the lockdown. We are giving the client presentation on Friday, and probably if things work out, we have a team who are going to be sitting at home and doing the set of working drawings, selection of material. From quite some time we have been doing just request of different materials. Yes, fabric and the colors, at times you need to physically see it, but I think that is a limited thing. I don't need an office for that. So it is possible. It's just that we are fearful. We try to hold on to ourselves, to our standards of ways it were before, but I think it can happen easily.
What do you have to say about this, Kanika? I mean, in terms of the touchless technology, and I mean, we've talked about, getting, going local and, recycling and everything. But what about technology based things? Because now, since everything is based on technology, even, we are talking through a Zoom chat. So
Yes,
I
exactly.
want to understand, what about those things and what about touchless technology in designs? Because a lot of people are probably developing certain booths also. There is a check station which you have in malls. So, instead of touching, they have a touchless go through. So, what do you have to say about technology coming into play?
The technology definitely is going to be a huge influencer. way ahead. With AR, even if you're looking at when design, we're using virtual reality and augmented reality. So with digitalization and these things, um, these are basically going to assist us in design. But when you talk of function, digitalization and functioning, I think it's going to stem in every. I mean, I'm not the best person to talk about that, but still, it will definitely stem to every sphere of whether it's a work sphere or home sphere or whatever. But the pertinent one would be the public areas.
Right,
It
right.
also, and I missed another point earlier, which was working from home depends really how much of square foot area you have dedicated for the task. Because there would be different overlaps happening. So that's again another vital element.
Right. We also have a question which talks about online business. I mean, right now, how are you doing client acquisition in terms of how to explore online business and architectural practice? Because that's what, I think a lot of us would want to know and, see. I mean, obviously, there are ways of communicating digitally also, but if anybody would like to answer on how we can fetch business online.
Best is, I think, when you're doing all your sharing your stuff on social media, obviously, like your Insta, in fact, people are crazy about the Insta page. I mean, more than anything else, I feel. But yeah, so you can add to that.
Right. Any other inputs on client acquisition, Anjali?
I think during this time, people are more active more than ever, on their social media. I think it is the right time for anyone to, upload their work and post their pictures, or also thought process of designing and communicate little more with their followers. So I think this is a perfect time for anyone to have a better and more aggressive social media presence, and it is the best platform available currently. Apart
Right.
from that, you can call up your existing clients. You can inquire about and try and give them solutions remotely, and keep in touch with them, because most of us get more clientele through references only. I think that is also one way we can be in touch with our clients and check on them.
Right, right. And I mean, we have another interesting question which talks about the co-working culture. Right now, probably since the last 2-3 years, everybody was talking about co-working spaces and, how everybody can get an office, whether a freelancer or a company outstation. So, how do you think that this pandemic will affect co-working spaces in terms of layout or even the culture? Will they be able to sustain, or will the design layout would change anything on that ground?
I feel co-working is going to be a very important factor now in post-pandemic era, because uh, as you rightly said, people who have very lean staff now, and they can actually build upon this technology and not even try to build up a bigger office like established people are already doing. Because if they tie up with the right people and they did not limit themselves to the local environment, because we have people sitting all over India who can do supporting jobs for us from anywhere in the country. So if they can smartly organize themselves in this new technology, instead of trying to do the way we have done it traditionally, I think they have a much faster and a better way of growing, because they have to just pick and choose their who are the partners they want, and they can play the major role and they can be the front people, and they could use this kind of a technology over a 1 minute. Hold on. So they could actually use this technology the way we have not used it before. And I think for the other way around, people who want to shut down their staff and who are, let us not be very pessimistic, but people who think things are going to change for them, they could actually shed their extra weight and extra overhead, whatever they have got, and move into this kind of a scenario where their people could be working from remote somewhere, and they could actually move into a co-sharing space and try it all over again instead of getting overburdened with rents and all kind of things. So this is just from our both the angles point of view. Probably other industry also will have the same situation. So the WeWork kind of setup has got a great future, I think.
Questions coming for you suddenly. Post this, I mean, a lot of people are asking you about, how do you see a more health-centric approach to, a management of mobilization system? So, they say that urbanization involves critical management of people mobilization systems, which contribute to effective infrastructure. How do you see a more health-centric approach to, this becoming viable?
For the offices, basically?
No, generally in terms of urbanization.
Okay, we missed out 2 points, while we were discussing the offices.
Yeah.
One is I was listening to one air conditioning consultant, and one very silly point which we missed out is, the air change cycle, which we normally have as a part of our HVAC system. So in this scenario, I think this, whatever air conditioning you're working on, we have to make sure the air change is a very, very important part, because if we keep recirculating the same air in any office space in this pandemic situation and post-pandemic situation, this is going to be one factor which is going to be very important in office designing. In all our coming, we tend to miss out some small things like this. For example, if you have a window AC or if you have a split AC, you don't have an air change in that kind of a scenario. And if you have 6 people working in that setup, and imagine one of them is, God forbid, infected or something. So these are the kind of dangers we pose. It is not just about the space, but there are other technical factors. Then there could be other factors like which we never thought about before. Like there could be a thermoscanners in the office over and above your your touch me not devices. So these kind of things would become a kind of a common features after some time. There could be disinfecting tools in the office, and some kind of auto cleaning systems. So these things are going to come up in the market after some time, and they are going to be a part of our office designing structures, because we never thought about these things before. But now these are a selling point for new vendors now to catch on to our phobia of this post-pandemic situation. So we may see this kind of thing becoming a part of our office gadgets now.
Can I
Also,
add?
anyone would want to explore the situation where there would be less urbanization and people would want to own more farmhouses. Will we see more migration towards rural and outskirts area in future? I think in future,
And also,
farmhouse.
sure, that is definitely going to be a trend. But also, we're going to be eating close to a forest area also. No? When we're doing farmhouses, that's the other ripple effect. But the other point I was trying to make, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other point I'm trying to make is every time, whenever we are in turbulence, okay, for example, today it's a pandemic. Before it was a natural calamity with the tsunami. When tsunami came, there was again a huge vocabulary of design, a whole vocabulary of do's, don'ts, a new professional approaches, new professions, careers, possibilities. So every time there is a crisis, design is definitely going to have different solutions. So when tsunami came, everybody said, "Oh, do away with the fenestration, no glass, no glazing, no this. Try and use wood. Look at metals. So go back to our roots. The what we've learned." So every time there's a crisis, we definitely nature, God is trying to shake us out of our reverie. We're always into this hibernation mode till something strikes. We don't, enact. So it's just one example. Unfortunately, this is the case. But yes, when it is inflicted upon us, then we think about it more seriously.
Right. On a lighter note, we've received another question, which is from Manish. That's from YouTube Live, when it says that the world has come up digitally. There are a lot of opportunities coming up every day for architects, whether it's a live session or talk about your favorite corner of the house. Are you enjoying so much attention digitally as designers?
That's a yes and a no answer, right? I think I'm enjoying it. I think all of us are enjoying this new workspace that we all have created in our house or whichever corner that you could get. And it's how you see. It's finally we all have to look at it if you're not going to enjoy it, you're not going to be productive enough. So I think that has been my motto all this while. If I don't enjoy my work, I'll probably quit and open a restaurant in Goa. So, yeah.
Wow.
So I think I have been enjoying this all this while, and I think I ensured that I still enjoyed what I'm doing even now. Unfortunately, heat is unbearable, but I would still not go inside the house and put on my AC and sit and work. This is still better.
Yeah, we'll just quickly sum up a couple of questions. A lot of people are asking about furniture. I don't know why. I mean, people want to make most of their furniture at home right now. So
Yeah.
I'll just quickly tell you all the things that people want to ask in terms of furniture. We have a lot of things. One, they want to know about smart furniture at home for work, which they should use right now when it comes to work from home. Then they want to know about how badly furniture industry will get hit, as furniture is the last thing that somebody would want to buy. We have another question in terms of sustainability, which talks about, is it like how will it become a permanent solution and not a short-term goal? So this is what I would like you guys to probably answer. And let's see, how we can help them better when it comes to one. First, let's start with furniture. Smart ways of using furniture right now when it comes to work from home. Is furniture industry going to hit? Are we going to go local completely? And what about the factories and companies running through with international?
People are always going to invest in furniture because right now the home is the only retreat or recluse. So definitely they're looking for comfortable furniture. I think more and more people will invest in furniture. I mean, if not spaces. You may not buy a space, but you can definitely buy a piece of furniture. So that market will never go down. But again, it depends on what segment: luxury, mid level, or economical, modular. So we can again, modular furniture can work for everybody. It can be cost effective, plus at the same time it can give you solutions. So it has to be attempted. You have to look at this in different phases and different stratas.
Right, right. Okay. And next, we can go on to, don't we think that we have to build more of, healthcare facilities, as we are not well equipped to handle such a kind of epidemic? So what do you have to say on that, and how, flexible healthcare spaces can be built in terms of, whether it comes to, the placements of beds or the standardization of the rooms? I mean, how can we as designers help through?
We don't
Anyone?
have.
Yeah. Anjali, if you have anything on this healthcare specifically.
Yeah, but I think, not only healthcare, any public space in future will be built on, in line of being very hybrid, flexible, and fluid. A space where one can feel safe, one can have enjoy social life, and also practice social distancing. uh, I don't see any need for urgent requirement of more number of hospitals or more number of healthcare units. I think current one, the number of unit private and government public that we have can be improved, and can be those units or hospital or spaces can adapt to the current situation rather than building more. I think we can look at that.
Right. Milind sir, if you have anything to add in terms of healthcare facilities, how can we make it more flexible and more accommodating for, the future in terms of the number of people, the number of space planning? How can we work on to that?
So we have actually two levels of healthcare facilities in India. One is the government-based and one is the private sector. So what we have seen, unfortunately, during this COVID, is the government facilities which has risen to the occasion. And it's all the frontline team, what we keep applauding all the time, mostly come from that zone. And I'm a little sorry to say, but the so-called well-off doctors and established practitioners, they are actually missing in action. Because I can see them all holed up inside their houses and not really on the front line. So when we look at this kind of a scenario, like a pandemic, first we have to understand we are depending on which level, because obviously in this kind of situation, it's the government facilities that are going to see us through. And then it's the second level, which the football stadiums are getting converted, the indoor stadiums are getting converted, the school halls, the basketball courts are getting converted, you name it, and they are raising some temporary structures and converting it to the hospital. So that kind of technology has to be evolved which you have, in a short notice, you can convert open spaces to this kind of mass treatment areas, because constructing a hospital as a capital cost is not such an easy idea. It requires a lot of equipment, a lot of complicated stuff, and a lot of facilities inside the structure. So that has to be only optimized for the current level. You cannot design these things for pandemics. So we should actually have this kind of a situation where you are ready for a pandemic and you can use other areas for flexibility. Because in hospital, I don't really see, when we design hospitals, how I can design a hospital in such a flexible way where OT can be shifted, or any kind of a specific OPD sections can be redesigned, or this kind of situation. Only the bigger halls can be remodeled at a very small space, period of time. So frankly, I don't see that is the way of looking at things. And we should be looking to the big time government setups which can actually take care of this situation. Small hospitals can be converted at a second level when the governments can't handle. So we should have some kind of 2 to 3 layer tiered program kind of a scenario where some hospitals enroll into that kind of practice where they can be volunteering to help the situation. So some kind of a government and some kind of self-volunteering situations need to be formulated now. Now that we have seen what happens in a pandemic and at what levels we need to escalate and make the situation ready for the coming numbers that grow very fast. I think we are in a very right position to now evaluate how to really plan for this kind of a situation. And going forward, I think we will use all our expertise and experience to start designing the new formulas now.
Right, thank you. Okay, so we'll quickly just wrap up now. We've received a lot of questions though, but a lot of it we've also answered during our chat in the earlier 30 minutes, and rest of them I would like people to, they feel free to kind of connect with each of our panelists and they would be happy to answer your questions. If not, you can get to me and I could share the questions with them and I'll get them answered. Apart from that, let's close up and kind of on one note where I want one line from each one of you on how to stay positive in terms of this, in terms of the entire design fraternity, in terms of you as an individual, how can you stay positive? Just one quick line, so we can clear all these challenges that people are facing, and they can just stay positive and feel happy about everything. So starting with Kanika.
The crisis really opens up a whole world of new possibilities. So let's look at that.
Great. Yes. Anjali.
I would say my way of dealing with the whole situation is I think we need to be more focused and we need to internalize more. We should use this time to understand our body and mind, and and we can use this time to evolve as a creative person, read more, watch more, probably sketch, and eat healthy. Most important, build your immunity, exercise, and stay motivated.
Great. Milind sir.
I will like to make it very short. I would say don't let the lockdown lock you down.
Nice. That's a nice statement. Manish.
Okay, I would call this Earth 2.0. This is the second life we all are getting. Stop panicking and stop seeing all those videos being shared on WhatsApp and on WhatsApp did a smart thing of reducing the number of WhatsApp forwards to 1. So please understand why they are doing it. It's for a good benefit. So you worrying is not going to change the world. It's going to be as it is. Try to be positive. Try to think about the future. Try to imagine how the world is going to cope with this and how can you contribute to that. So stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about the whole society and the world around us. So we can play a better second inning.
Yes, great.
Yes.
Ending that on a good second ending note. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. I know we've taken a lot of time, but I hope everybody was happy and in terms of getting an insight into this. See you guys around. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to
for
all the
having
guys
us.
who
Thank
have
you.
been
Bye.
putting their questions. Sorry, we could not answer all.
Yes,
And we
yes.
had a great time,
I
all
will
of us.
make sure to get
To you
that
all.
answer from each one of you. Once I receive it from everyone. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Lovely.
Bye,
Bye-bye,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.